Hey everybody, TBC here. We're now several weeks into Kunark, so I thought I would now show you all what the premier raid zone of Kunark looks like and how we go about killing those mobs. But before I get into it, just wanted to give a quick shout out to our channel members. Thank you so much for your support. It really is appreciated, and it helps me continue to make content about EverQuest. So again, thank you so much. Also really appreciate any likes and subscribe to buttons for membership, subscribes, likes, all down below. Again, it helps me kind of grow this channel as well. So today's video, there's not much out there about Veeshans Peak, and what is out there early on is often contradictory or it gives you the wrong information. So I thought I would just give you a quick run through of what our run through Veeshans Peak look like this week. So let's get right on into it. VP. I remember when VP launched and all the kind of documentation that went along with it, that they announced that no GM would ever come into this zone. So if you were playing and ran into a problem, it was almost too bad, so sad. And you couldn't gate out of VP either. The only way out of VP was through one of the zone outs behind one of the bosses. So back in the day, this was a truly terrifying zone to kind of come to and risk everything in. Nowadays, loot stays on you, we have DZs, people can gate out, no big deal. So Veeshans Peak, when you come in and you're getting set up, the first boss you come to is this one here, Silverwing. Silverwing's not very difficult, has a conal AoE, so you need to make sure that Silverwing is facing away from the raid.
Chaos breath cast.
Otherwise that happens. As you can see, everyone got hit by that then, and a few of us were thrown up in the air and took some damage. But otherwise, Silverwing's very straightforward. Nobody has to joust, so you don't have to run in and out. It's just pretty much a tank and spank at this point, and it's kind of like the speed bump that will really test whether your raid has the heals and the damage to kind of carry on and progress into the zone, because you always kind of have to kill Silverwing usually first, as it's on the way to Phara Dar. Now I'm playing a ranger, so I've got it fairly easy. I'm just hitting one button, doing damage, casting the odd spell as well. As you can see what's landing there. Make sure to mana drain Silverwing, because otherwise Silverwing will 100% definitely gate on you, and you don't want that. That's always a pain to deal with, and means you've got a complete waste of time. But yeah, Silverwing, nothing difficult, but also not that great loot anyway. And that's pretty much the story about Veeshans Peak, is that the loot for the most part absolutely sucks, because it's a lot of weapons. And the reason why, I think these were brought in back when they thought not many people were gonna do their epic quests, although they struggle to do their epic quests, so they put these kind of different weapons in that are kind of comparable but nowhere near as good for the most part, and that's what Veeshans Peak is. So Silverwing, Druuskh, Nexona, all these dragons drop mostly weapons, and weapons that are not fantastic to use either. But we'll see what we get from this Silverwing, and as you can see from Silverwing, we are using a complete heal chain. You don't need to use this CH chain necessarily on some of these dragons. We're doing it because it's good practice when you absolutely do, when you're going into Velius, and those complete heal chains on Aratar, War and whatnot are definitely needed. And this is a good really place to kind of come, and that's how I see a lot of Veeshans Peak as well, as a mini temple of Veeshan. And I do think it was like the test zone, or what would later go on to inspire Temple of Veeshan, and you certainly see that when you run around and it's kind of layout and with the dragons and whatnot. Makes for a rather interesting zone. But enchanters, sorry, it's an absolutely really terrible raid for you guys, because yeah, mana draining, there's barely no pet. Well, I'm just going to call it out. The only pet in here is like a meme, and that's the barbarian, but no one really charms them because they just die in one hit on Phara Dar. So your job is to buff and mana drain. And as you can see, we had no problem with Silverwing. Went down very, very easily. So let's see what loot we got. So down goes Silverwing, hooray, the first VP boss down, and we got the decent robe actually. It's not a bit more than a toy, the robe of Smouldering. The Executioner's blade, which yeah, not terrible ratio on it, and the Scimitar of Life Stealing, which has that kind of effect of a life tap, again interesting, and the old Druid stick, which we always see. Now, what is, I guess, interesting about this server compared to others is that heirloom. So a lot of these weapons wouldn't see much use, to be honest, because everyone's got their epic in their main hand, right? But on this server, we can send them to a level 1. You can have a level 1 warrior with that crazy axe. Yeah, the damage is capped, but you know, still there is potential for some fun to be had, and that certainly is going to what makes this rule set with heirloom a little bit more interesting. Enchanters, if you're coming in Kunark, this guy is the best charm pet you're gonna get, or definitely 100% always recommend charming them. Definitely well worth the time. So next up we have Phara Dar, and I put my big boy ranger pants because you can see Phara Dar's coming in and I'm going to be the first to tank as a ranger, so I'm pressing weapon shield. More just to kind of help get Phara Dar into place, cast, but also for the tanks to kind of taunt off me with all this flame lick aggro that I have. So you get Phara Dar nicely positioned on a wall, and the tank can go in then, and as you'll see, will be flip around, which is always how you want to do it. You want usually want it tanked or facing away from the raid. Now Phara Dar has this really annoying stun, and as you can see, it's hit me right there and I'm spinning, but you can actually very easily resist that. You got a bard in your group with the resist song, and you have GMR and the null potion, and you stack your magic resist as high as you can. You will resist that stun breath. Other than that, CH chain again, and Phara Dar, not all that difficult. You can easily do Phara Dar with like 20 characters very easily in Kunark. And Phara's supposed to be the kind of the big boss of the zone, and it's one of the easiest and has the best loot in the zone to be had. 100% always worth the time to come kill Phara Dar every single time. And again, it's a good dragon to kind of practice for TLV when things are going to be a little bit harder, by doing those CH chains and doing things like tank swaps when defensive runs out, because those are things you will need to get right if you want to have a shot at killing Avatar of War and Tuner and Vulak, etc. You're gonna have to do those kind of things. So again, good place to come and practice right now is towards the back end of Kunark in Veeshans Peak. So we kill Phara Dar, always on the lookout for a robe, and let's see if we get it. Yep, Phara Dar's walking. Again, make sure that you mana drain Phara Dar because we'll gate. And there we go, 2 robes and a shield. 2 robes is such nice because look at the stats on that thing. It's awesome. And that robes go pretty much at every class except tanks, monks, rangers, casters, you name it. You can wear it. It's probably best in the slot throughout Kunark. And we also got a Sword of Ryle, which again, another interesting weapon that might see some use if you're not tanking. I don't really know. I can't say I've ever used it, or again to send on to an alt, because having these kind of weapons at low level can be a lot of fun. Next up we have probably the hardest dragon in the zone, and that is Hoshkar, the big green dragon right here. And what actually happened here was, on our first pull, it popped into the middle of the raid. As the monk was pulling it, we weren't anticipating it. It literally just warped right on top of the raid. So yeah, we just wiped this one off and started again with a proper pull. So we get ready this time. No surprise, Hoshkar's going to happen and pop on the raid and AoE everyone this time. So Hoshkar people consider to be the hardest because he has one of the nastiest AoEs you would have seen in the game by now. It's a disease-based AoE, and there's a nuke component, a pretty hefty nuke component at 1500, and then a dot as well, and you are not going to be resisting it. You just can't do it at this point. I've never seen anyone resist it, even with the best bard, song, epic and whatnot. So what you do want to do though is ideally have someone with the Shield the Immaculate, which can cure it, spamming it on the tank. So a bard is ideal for that, to be honest, and they can just be spamming it on the tank, so the tank's not at least going to be getting the AoE component. And again, we're doing a complete heal chain, and everyone, all the AoE is having to joust it, and as you can see, that means it's a lot of running in and out. So it just extends and elongates the fight more than anything, because you're only doing DPS for like 10 seconds and then out you go again, and rinse and repeat, and keep on doing that for 30-42 minutes it takes to kill. Yeah, not actually a hard fight once you got it set up and people are avoiding the AoE. It's when you always get those tryhards that want to reach the top of the pass that get the AoE, and then they're running around asking for a cure, and a dead melee or DPS, is producing no DPS. So that's why it's really important to make sure you joust, because you are going to be doing damage to get it down. And down Hoshkar will most certainly go. And what everybody wants from Hoshkar is, we want to see loot wise, is the grey suede boots, the feet, because those feet have 41% haste on, which other than Sky and a handful of epics you're not really seeing as of yet. So it's one of the highest haste items in the game, and it's on a different slot. It's not a belt, it's not a back, it's not a weapon, it's on your feet. So it's a quite highly sought after item, especially good on monks as well. Also drops a few weapons, which again, no, you're not coming here for these weapons really. You're coming here to do Phara Dar and maybe Hoshkar for those boots. But anyway, we did the Queen
Dragon
of
Charm
Key
cast.
for herself,
Stream of Acid cast.
And Nexona, not too dissimilar to previous dragons. She has a AoE which goes off, which Stream of Acid, which is again it's called Stream of Acid. You think that'd be poison based? No, it's actually fire based. Don't know what's going on there. And it's just a 500 damage dot tick per tick, and a movement speed reduction. So yeah, I decided to joust it, but you can, if you can cure yourself and get through the healing, like monks can sometimes stay in with mend and things like that, so if you got someone curing them, but it's not a hard fight, it's just more of a kind of wear it down kind of a fight. The weird thing is though, I think Nexona has a actual really big hitbox, a lot bigger than some of the other dragons, and you can actually hit Nexona from much farther away. And as you'll see here on this time, I'm only just popping out around the corner. You don't have to run in all the way to her. Even though she's halfway down that wall, I'm just sticking my head out from this corner and I'm doing damage onto her with melee. So a nice little trick, keep the range, that way you can stay in for longer, you don't have as far to run. Those extra few hits that you can do, if everyone's doing that, that adds up to some significant damage and will help you get Nexona down a lot quicker. And down Nexona does go, and the blue dragon with the big teeth will slowly walk away from you. Final act before they give up their loot, and let's see what we get from the blue one. Oh, another robe and 2 of the hammers. A pointless cleric mace, but again, could you use it on a low level? You probably, yeah. And the Yakishan axe, which is yeah, you'd only use that on an alt, right? I mean, I can't see. Maybe you could use it if you were not tanking and you didn't want to pull aggro, so you didn't want to use your aggro sword, maybe to do some damage. But other than that, yeah, these dragons, a lot of them are just kind of pointless to kill really at this point. So next up we have Xygos. Xygos does actually have a little bit of interesting loot, but isn't that much of an interesting dragon, to be honest, as long as you position it right where it can't hit your spellcasters, because Xygos does have a silence, and while it is resistible, you don't want it landing on your healers, because then your tank is not going to be getting the heals they need to carry on kind of tanking these mobs. And other than that, isn't a very interesting fight, to be honest. Just keep doing what you've always been doing, to be honest, already on these dragons in this zone, and you'll win. No different really, just make sure it doesn't get aggro onto your healers and you'll be fine. In terms of loot, I mean, we were hoping for one of the left eyes, or maybe a wizard robe, which kind of makes him almost worth doing. He's just running away and down he goes. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. We got a bunch of mediocre weapons yet again. No wizard robe, no left eye, just cudgels and weapons and all the things kind of in between, as well as a staff of null. And the staff of null is like a bad version of the one that drops from TLP and Velius, and which can be useful for monks with cancel magic, but not this one. It's the bad version, and a little spear there. So yeah, for Oakwynd, good place to come if you want alt weapons. Well, I am sort of missing one boss because of the little incident with the magical teleporting warping Hoshkar. Didn't quite have time to do Druuskh because we're like very much a casually hardcore kind of guild. We don't like going past our raid time, so that was that. So I've created a dramatic recreation of what a fight with my ranger would look like attacking Druuskh. Druuskh is a ranger and isn't hard. The only reason you do Druuskh is to get the soul sword, which is a nice little toy, and that's kind of it. Druuskh does cast a lightning bolt AoE, 1500 damage, so maybe you want to joust that. It is targeted AoE though, so it'll be on whoever it is aggro, which is typically the tank. It is range 300, so you're probably not going to be able to outrange it all that well, so maybe just joust this one if you can't heal for it. And then hopefully you have a dead Druuskh, and like I said, hopefully you got the soul sword, because that's a fun little toy for those classes that can't cast it. So that's the video for today. Just wanted to showcase kind of how easy Veeshans Peak has become, and what's not, even if there was a little wipe in there when things can just go crazy and a dragon can suddenly warp to you rather than just run. But that's EverQuest for you. It's full of those kind of weird things. Lots of content coming your way as we count down to Velius. And I've said before, I haven't really done much content on Velius before, so I'm looking forward to really jumping in and showing what the expansion kind of has to offer. Maybe that will be a couple of tier makers, who knows. I know everyone watching really loves those. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like and subscribe. Any comments on how you've done Veeshans Peak differently to how we've done it. I know there is, and I've heard about some like cheeses you can do under the bridge and things like that. Our guild always likes to try and do things properly. So let me know down in the comments below if you've got any advice for anyone watching, or for any way we could have done it better. I don't know. As always, I am the Brick Canuck, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.